Hello again. I'd like to say something about lesson plans today. When we taught our initial teacher training courses, we're often taught how to plan a lesson and suggested that we should teach every lesson around a lesson plan. I think there's two things that lesson planning involves. First of all, when we plan a lesson around a unit from the book or materials that we've chosen ourselves, it gives us a chance to think about what are some of the issues that teaching that lesson is going to involve, to do with timing, to do with grouping, to do with motivating students, to do with explaining language difficulties, and so on. So the planning phase before we teach is a useful opportunity to really think through what the content of the lesson is and how to make it more learner-centered or more engaging for students. Now that may or may not result in a written lesson plan. Many teachers use mental plans. They don't feel the need to write out lesson plans in a great deal of detail. Of course, in your initial teacher training, you're probably required to do so, and your lesson plans may be reviewed by a coordinator or a supervisor. But experienced teachers tend to work more from mental plans, if you like. They study the book before they go into class, and they think about which aspects of it they'll give more attention to, and so on. Even with a lesson plan, of course, once you start teaching a lesson, things happen that you hadn't anticipated. And so you may find a difficulty occurs that needs a little attention, some language issue arises, the students are not familiar with a certain vocabulary, or you may find that they're very interested in something that you didn't think was going to be so interesting. So unanticipated incidents occur that often can shape the way the lesson unfolds. So it's important to realize that a good lesson is not necessarily one that follows its lesson plan, because there are often good reasons to depart from the lesson plan, to build in more engagement, more practice, and so on as the lesson proceeds. On the other hand, a lesson plan does tell you what you're planning to cover, where you're going, and what the outcomes of the lesson are going to be. So you need to keep those things in mind, even if you don't write them down. But realize that they're just a map of the beginning of the lesson written in advance. And as the lesson unfolds, you should feel free to negotiate around that plan. You may decide to drop some aspects of it entirely that just didn't seem to work. So a lesson plan is a resource, if you like. It doesn't dictate the lesson. It's a resource that you can use to help you think about a lesson you're going to teach and to help you manage your teaching through the process of a lesson.